Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Stands. Of course, I'm your host, Rick Semmler. Joining me this week is former Terre Haute South girls basketball coach, Alan Maroska. Coach, great to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for the invite.
Of course, the big reason I have Coach Maroska on, been an exciting week for him and the Terre Haute community. He's the newest member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, part of the 23rd Women's Induction Class. Coach, I guess first of all, just when you got the call that you're going in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, how excited were you?
Oh, I was tremendously excited. I told them I always thought I would get in. I was just afraid I might be dead before they got around to it. Nothing's changed in 16 or 17 years, but I'm happy to be here. Happy for the honor, for me, for the school, for the kids that played for me. We had a great run, had a lot of talent, and I feel like we got a lot of things done during that 26 years.
You speak of, you didn't know, if you get in. You certainly had an incredible run. Did you feel that what Terre Haute South and you did, that you deserved a spot in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, absolutely. I can't say it was a lifetime goal. I knew about the Hall of Fame, and we'd been there several times with basketball teams, but I'd never noticed they were starting to induct coaches of women's sports, and it wasn't until '02 when several of us went over to celebrate with Pat Rady. I said, hey, I want to be in this group someday. And, the criteria is 25 years service and 300 victories. I was 26 years and 398 victories.
Mm-hmm. You speak of that. Let's go over your resume just a little bit. I want to get all the numbers right, so I'm looking at them here. Like you said, 26 years at Terre Haute South, a 67% winning percentage, very impressive. 398 wins to just 190 losses. Looking back on that, and you hear those numbers, just how excited were you of what you got done at Terre Haute South and the run that the Braves had under you?
Well, it was a process, and I remember when I started, the coach at Bloomington South said it'll take 3 years to make it your own team, and first 2 years we were 12-8, but with one sectional. And the third year we started to have a breakout season, and I think we were maybe 18-3 that third year, and won the sectional and contended for the regional championship. So that was our first really good year, and that was the start. Of course, somewhere along the way, the IHSAA made the girls and boys basketball seasons the same length. For the longest time, girls only played 18 games in a season, and eventually they extended our season to 20, which we were very thankful, especially in those beginning years. Seems like we lost several games to the weather in January back then.
Looking through you had 5 Indiana All-Stars, 9 Division I players. Talk about the players that you coached. I know you enjoyed them all, but you had some tremendous talented players that you were able to coach. Just can you reflect on some of those players that you sent on to the D1 level and that were your Indiana All-Stars?
Oh, yeah, and in the beginning, the first one was Pam Owens, tremendous athlete. Went to IU and had some bad luck playing summer ball or something in an old building and slipped in some water, tore ACL. That held her back. And after her was Valerie Evans, outstanding career. Went to Duke, played there all 4 years, tremendous career. Along the Valerie line, Kara Stuckey and Valerie Evans were my 2 most dominant players. From day one, Valerie was a 3-year player because we were in a junior high system at that time. And so she had to wait till she was a sophomore. Kara came in as a freshman, and they both dominated practice and games from day one. Kara could have been an Indiana All-Star, but
Golf.
she was
She was too good at golf.
well. She was behind April McDibbott from Connorsville, who went to Tennessee, and I can't think of the girl from New Albany, but she went to Purdue. And it seems like there was another good guard ahead of Kara, and they can only take so many people at each position. Dorcas Lawson was in that group, tremendous, explosive player. Started at Butler, and she was an Indiana All-Star, mainly because of her position. There weren't very many wing players that year. Her dad called that a year in advance that she was going to make the All-Star team. So, junior high coaches, dads, kids being motivated and working year-round helped my career immensely.
We got to go on, not just your players, all the titles you won. 14 sectional championships, 6 regionals, 1 semi-state, and of course, you in 2002, 4A state champs, Terre Haute South. It's the only basketball state championship in Vigo County history that you won. First of all, just talk about that. I know every team you enjoyed, every team you loved, but that 2002 team still talked about to this day, still honored. How special, how good was that 2000 Terre Haute South girls basketball state championship team you coached?
Well, Gary Donna published Hoosier Basketball magazine back in the day, and we were preseason #1, preseason picked to win the state. So we fulfilled our prophecy. That's nice, and that was a special group. It had 4 seniors, 4 senior guards, had a junior that was 6'6", and then I had a group of sophomores that were talented too. With that being said, the 6'6" girl, her dad asked a guy from Indianapolis who's big in girls AA basketball and has coached everything over there, Kevin Merriweather. Kevin, should we come to Indianapolis to try to win a state championship her junior year? And he said, Mike, there's enough talent in Terre Haute South to win 2 state championships. He was half right. And then, of course, Racina went to bigger and better pastures, and didn't work out so well for her, but she did get a Division I scholarship and had an opportunity to do good things. As far as our team, I just said they were loaded, and I had a principal at that time who played basketball at Iowa, same time Bob Knight played at Ohio State. And the season got started, and I was trying to get all those kids a few minutes in a game, and he comes to me and he said, now, Al, if I talk to you about your team, it's just a suggestion. And you do whatever you want, because I'm not going to tell you what to do. I said, well, okay. He said, what if you identified your top 7, maybe 8 players, and only played those kids until at least the 4th quarter, middle of the 4th quarter, and I don't care if you're beating somebody 70-20. We'll just deal with that later. So you see what you think about that. Because what will happen, you'll need those kids in the tournament. We went with that philosophy. Didn't make a lot of people happy to see big lead and kids still sitting on the bench. But we had the ultimate goal, and that came to pass in the semi-state against Ben Davis. The only game we were challenged in the whole tournament. It was a very close game. We were always in control, but it was nip and tuck, and I dipped down to that 8th player. It was Laura Engel. In a minute and a half, she had a basket, a steal, a rebound, and an assist. Probably the most productive minute and a half of any kid that's ever played at Terre Haute South. And that was enough to propel us on. I think we won about 45-38, something close to that. I'm not sure. So it was just a joy, and a joy after the season. We just had so much fun during that year.
I want to thank our sponsors of the show real fast, Crow Equipment Incorporated, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, your 2018 American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, building a higher standard award winner for quality and reliability you can depend on. Call Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, 765-832-9401. I mentioned this a few seconds ago, that 2002 Terre Haute South girls basketball team, 4A state champs, still to this day the only basketball state champion in Vigo County history. Do you take pride in being the only team to be able to do that?
Well, not that we're the only team, just that we did it. You know, to be picked in the preseason and then be able to complete your mission, that's just a dream come true.
You know, I talked to Jason Pinsky, still longtime sports director at WTWO. You said he contacted you about getting in the Hall of Fame. I wasn't here yet when the 2002 team played. I wish I had. He told me all the stories. You had big crowds, had an incredible team. Just was that just going in? You knew it would be a dream season, and it lived up to it.
Oh yeah, and you know, at that time I wasn't real happy when we joined the Metropolitan Interscholastic Conference. But it served us well. We always tried to play a competitive schedule. But with being in the MIC, I think that really helped us quite a bit. And along that line, the four seniors from '02, two of those kids were on the freshman team that went 11-2. During the season, those two got moved up to the junior varsity. The junior varsity unofficially won the MIC conference, but MIC conference didn't recognize junior varsity achievements, but they were undefeated in the MIC as freshmen. And then their time to play came when Dorcas and Kara and Jolene Brewer graduated and moved on.
Now, you mentioned this 2002 team. Some of the names on it: Racina Russell, she went on to the Big Ten to play Division I basketball. Melanie Beglin, arguably the greatest women's basketball player in Indiana State history. Kristen Clary played tennis at Xavier and won a tennis state title at Terre Haute South. Darcy Rector, she played St. Mary of the Woods. Jackie Gustafson, Allison Terrell. Caitlin Bishop played volleyball at USC. These are some of the best athletes to ever come through Terre Haute South, and or not even Terre Haute South, Terre Haute in general, and you had them on the same team. What was it like to have just those incredible athletes on the same team?
Well, it made competitive practices, and whatever we tried to accomplish, we were able to, fulfill those those obligations we had. My best teams didn't always work out this way, but when I had a player from Honey Creek, Sarah Scott, and Woodrow Wilson, those were some of our strongest teams because you had the cream from each of those schools. But that group played a lot of basketball as youngsters through AAU and junior high. So they were ready to play, and that group won the MIC conference, not in '02, but in '01 they were MIC conference champs, which is unusual. You win the MIC, but you don't win the state. That group, their junior year, we had Kristen Weddle with us, a very strong team. Racina was a sophomore, and you thought we might have won the state that year. Problem was Ben Davis had two All-Americans, and that's kind of like ISU with Larry Bird and Michigan State with Magic Johnson and Magic Johnson and another All-American at that time.
Yeah.
So, but just tremendous growth during that time and a lot of fun. One of the big disappointments is I wish this had been 2 years earlier. My good friend Larry Stuckey died 1 year ago last week. He was instrumental. He was with me 15 years. Not very many people can say that. And he loved basketball. He loved to be around the kids, always had a joke. He was in charge of out of bounds plays. I hated out of bounds plays and jump balls. I was so glad when they went to alternating possession on jump balls. It was just such a waste of time. So he got a big kick out of that, and of course he was always ready for a dad joke.
Yes,
kids like that too.
He had the best jokes. There's no doubt about that. And he is missed very much. I mentioned one of the girls that played for you, Melanie Bagelin. She was good in high school, but she got better every year. And then that All-American career at ISU. Did you see that in Mel, that potential coming, that she would get to where she did?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm glad she went to Indiana State where that could develop. If she had a chance to go to Minnesota, but she might not have blossomed as much if she'd went to a bigger program. Because just like with us, she had other teammates that were talented, and we had Racina. You just had to use a kid that was 6'6" when she's playing against kids. If she's playing against somebody 6 foot, just tremendous advantage, and you had to make use of that. And they pressed at ISU and ran up and down the floor, and it was just made for her game.
Okay, so let's see your memory here. I mentioned you started in 1982. You started at South. Do you remember your very first win?
Absolutely.
Who was it?
Vincennes.
You remember the score?
No. I remember we lost the first 4 games and lost the first 4 games the next year, too. And along that line, Bloomington South was the first game in both those years. So Larry Stuckey comes on board, and Bloomington South was one of the first games of the season, and he says, "Hey, I've done this for a long time. I can tell the way a team warms up. We're going to win this game." I said, "Well, okay, if you say so." Bloomington South had a baseball coach's daughter. She scored more points than our team, and went to became an Indiana All-Star and went to Notre Dame and started up there. But Stuke started to learn a lot at that point. That girls are just not the same as guys.
You remember the first win, and you talked about you lost your first 4 games. Any losses to this day that still stick with you that you felt you should have won, or just maybe humbled you a little bit over the years?
Well, yeah, Ben Davis. Indiana at Newcastle, 13-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Ball out of bounds at their end of the basket. Ball's thrown into Shira Eli. Nothing but net. The only time Ben Davis was ahead the whole game. So, yeah, that was hard to swallow. And it took us a while to beat Ben Davis. Had some pretty talented teams. But I know my teams beat Stan Binge 6 times. There probably aren't too many coaches in the state that can say they beat Stan 6 times. Maybe Alan Vickery, who came through Brebeuf and Indianapolis North Central. But once we got going, we were able to beat them pretty regular.
I want to thank our sponsors on the show again, Crow Equipment Incorporated and Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning. Okay, so we talked about your first win, tough losses we talked about. You talked about who you thought maybe your best 2 players you ever had. Do you have any players that maybe that you coached and you did enjoy but maybe drove you crazy over the years?
Well, yeah, we're not going to talk about
Not going down that road?
I will say one year I had 4 knuckleheads on the team, and it was difficult to be productive, and I thought, I am not doing that again. Well, one was a senior, so she was gone, and then a senior to be was not around at all summer, and soccer ended. She came, said she wanted to take another week off before she started basketball, and I said, just go ahead and take the whole year off. And so I got from 4 knuckleheads down to 2,
Two.
and we're not going to mention any names.
Okay. Not trying to put, just having a little fun there. When you look back on it and people talk about your coaching career, what do you want people to say about you?
Well, not all parents thought it, but from my perspective, we always tried to play the best kids, and did not hold grudges. You know, people want to talk about coaches don't like your kids. I might not have liked your kid, but if they could play basketball, they were going to be on the court because winning was more important than anything else. And I remember after I was out, Ernie Thompson up in the weight room around Danny Tanous, and Chad was up there, Chad Chrisman. And Ernie said, well, if nothing else, Maroska had a winning culture. And those kids knew what to expect of him. And I didn't show favoritism. If you needed to be corrected, I did. It's hard to get somebody to say, will you please do this? And then have them do whatever you ask. Sometimes you have to motivate them, either verbally or on the bench. And all along that line, probably my favorite was Darcy Rector. She didn't need it very often, but sometimes I would chew on her, and she would say, thank you, Coach, and turn and walk away. What is that? Thank you, Coach? But not everybody had that kind of reaction, but that was still very pleasant.
So we talked about your coaching and what you want to be known for. You played so many teams statewide, and I know you heard people talk, whether it was in the media or other coaches. What did you want your teams to be known for or about?
Fair play. We didn't play dirty. We didn't play rough. We just tried to play basketball. And, we always sought out teams to better ourselves. I can remember I knew Stephanie White was going to become a tremendous player, and we made arrangements her freshman year to get a 4-year contract with them. So we had 3 years of Stephanie. That was an experience up there. Wow.
I guess the question is, how did she do against your teams?
Well, her junior year, I don't know how many she scored, but they beat us 79-29, and Stephanie had 13 points in the fourth quarter. And I didn't mind that, but they did press all the way through the fourth quarter. And I did mention to the officials, Stephanie was an All-American, but those other 4 kids weren't. And they didn't like that comment. But, we always tried to leave it all on the floor. I'm very proud of the fact we won 5 of the 6 last sectionals of non-class sports. Then we won the first 5 sectionals of class basketball. So in that run, we won 10 of 11 sectionals. That was our best group of championships. And you throw a few regionals in there too.
You hear him there talking. There's a reason that he's going in the Hall of Fame. Coach, I appreciate your time. The newest member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, part of the 23rd Women's Induction Class, former Terre Haute South girls basketball coach Alan Maroska, heading into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. That does it for this edition of Beyond the Stands.